time out of your busy schedules to come on to BLAW Live. For those of you coming in, I see folks are coming in, and we're ready to have a wonderful and powerful discussion with our Pastor Lorraine Thornhill, who is pastor of Kingdom Empowerment Center, and she's here with me we're going to have some conversation about mental health, dealing with this time of COVID and how it's impacting people. So now that we're live, I just want to thank you so much for coming. As you're here, just want to let you know that we do have an opportunity for you to ask questions. You can open up the chat feature, and as we're going to share some things and share some questions and talk a little bit out, but we're going to leave some time for you to ask some questions. So if you do have a question, put it up in the chat box. You don't have to wait, but if you do have a question, just put it up in the chat box. We'll see it, and we will actually have time to go through your questions and make some comments. If you think it's some good points that are there, if you have something to share that will be an additive to a conversation, don't hesitate to let us know and let the folks that are here know. So we just thank all of you for being here tonight. And as we see more people are coming in, and so welcome everyone to BLAW Live. This is great. So it's 7 o'clock. And as we're here, just want to give you, if you're here for the first time, I just want to welcome you. And what we're here for, and I do these BLAW Lives on Tuesday evenings because I think it's important for us as believers to have conversations that are relevant to our lives and people of faith that are talking about things that can make us better and to make us healthier. So this is first things that we want to educate people. We want to just get people to understand and know how to do the things that will better their lives. The second thing is we want to inspire you. We want to encourage, we want to make sure that we say something that will actually pick up your spirits. I know that in this time, we can all use some encouragement. We can all use some inspiration. And so as we're sharing this information, we hope that it would give you some encouragement and give you some inspiration and also help to educate you and cause you to really do life better. So I'm thankful that God has given us this opportunity, and I'll do it as long as it's helpful, and I'll do it as long as someone is being blessed. And so I want to thank all of you for being here with us. Again, my guest is Pastor Lorraine Thornhill from Kingdom Empowerment Center. I just want to give you a quick overview, just kind of who she is, in case you don't know her. Pastor Lorraine Thornhill is senior pastor of the Kingdom Empowerment Center located in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And prior to becoming a pastor, she's worked for 7 years as a psychotherapist for the Bentley College in Waltham. She's native Bostonian, and she's has postgraduate certificates from the Institute of Life Coaching, and so she does life coaching. She's also has a Master's of Education degree in Human Development and Psychology from Harvard University and a Bachelor of Arts degree at Gordon College. She serves on many boards. She's actually the first woman to be president and leader of the Cambridge Black Pastors Alliance, which I'm a part of, and I'm glad to be a part of it, and she leads that. She's also serving as the vice president and the vice presiding elder of the New England District United Pentecostal Council Assemblies of God. She serves on many boards as a commissioner, and she's also in the City of Cambridge Human Service Department. She's the vice chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Cambridge YMCA. She's also serving as a board member, a former board member, or president, even as she shares on this board of the Cambridge Cares About AIDS. And so she's involved in many, many different areas of ministry. And also she's a chaplain for the Cambridge Police Department. And she's doing so many wonderful things in the community. Her church serves and does a really big outreach, serving the community with backpacks and school supplies, and it's really amazing what Kingdom Empowerment Center is doing. And so I'm happy to have her here. She's very busy, and so to get her here, it definitely is a gift. So I want you to make sure you soak up this time, just soak it all up, because it's going to be a great time for us. So I just want to get right in. So say good evening, Pastor Lorraine. How are you?
I'm good, Bishop Larry. Thank you for the invitation. It's good to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. And so tonight, as we're going to be diving into this topic of mental health, especially during this time of the pandemic, in COVID pandemic, a lot of people are having a lot of difficulties. In fact, when we talk about this pandemic, it's not just the pandemic of the virus; it's a pandemic in mental health. And so, I got a question just to start us off. Tell us about your journey into this field and this field of mental health. Just give us a little bit of background on it.
Well, my journey started, it feels like I'm old now, so many years ago. Um, but as you read through my bio, it started out when I um, did a graduate degree at Harvard Graduate School of Education in Human Development and Psychology. But before then, I was always interested in some form of psychology, but never really knew exactly what I wanted to do. People would say, "Oh, you don't make no money in that," but I loved, being around people and just doing something with counseling. Didn't know exactly. So I did that. And after completing my degree at Harvard, my graduate degree at Harvard, then an opportunity opened up for me at Bentley College to become a therapist and also the minority liaison. Now, I was brand spanking new to doing therapy. So they, through the grace of God, said, okay, you know what? Um, we like you. We want you to work for us, but we want to give you some more training. So they sent me off to school. So I got more training from the Boston Institute of Psychotherapy. So I did training there as well. So that was where everything started, everything launched for me in mental health, in doing my journey of psychotherapy, counseling. That was my foundation, was right there. It was a great foundation at Bentley College. I did that for 7 years. I absolutely loved it, working with college students of different ages, so it was great. And then it continued even after I became a full-time pastor. I still did therapy. I still did some counseling. So that's
Wow,
where it started.
wow. For me, um, I'm not astute to that profession or that area that you described as psychotherapy. Can you kind of break it down to the commoner, like to
Oh, please. Oh,
what
please.
is psychotherapy? What is it?
so
What is
so so
psychotherapy?
basically so basically if we talk about getting into treatment, mental health treatments, psychotherapy is just a form of treatment. So it's actually where you come in, you meet with someone, can be whether it be a psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, counselor, can be an addiction counselor, in many forms of different types of counseling. There's social workers who do counseling. So when they're doing therapy, they're doing psychotherapy. Okay. And so that's when they come in, sit down, you talk with you about, what's going on for you, your feelings, assess you. It's not like, sometimes you see on TV, they make it like, oh, you're going to be lying down on this couch and make it look kind of funny and weird. They do have, if you're going in for like psycho, there's different degrees. So psycho analysts, some people do that. They do lie down, stretch out on the couch, but not everyone does it. You could be sitting up, in two chairs, looking at each other like we're looking at each other right now, and having a conversation with someone who wants to delve deeper into your emotions, into your feelings, into finding out what's going on for you, what's causing you um, pain in some way. There's some sort of pain, something that's causing you some emotional pain. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what it is.
Wow. And so if we continue on that continuum, that was a very good explanation. How many types of field in the field of mental health
Uh-huh.
professions, what types are there? I know it's the psychotherapy, and there's a
That's the
number of
treatment,
them.
right? So psychotherapy is a treatment. So you can have support groups, is a treatment method for mental health, medication, which people don't like to hear about or talk about. But medication is a form of mental health treatment. Sometimes, as I tell folks, it is like, you take blood pressure pills, you take heart pills, you take something to regulate. So if you need medication, sometimes some people do need medication to regulate the chemical imbalance that's going on in the brain and part of their body. So they need that chemical imbalance to be regulated. And so they need to be on medication. And I know there's stigma around medication, and many people don't understand it and everything. But if it's the same way you're denying someone who's sick, and they say, "Oh, nope, you can't take blood pressure pills," but you need it to help you to regulate your blood. It helps you. Okay, it helps you to keep your pressure under control, along with your eating, along with other things. So it's not just medication. So I encourage people, if they're on medication, not just medication, but medication and therapy. So they're seeing someone else at the same time. All right. So the other thing would be, sometimes people need hospitalization. Sometimes people go into treatment by going to a hospital. So these are just some forms of mental health treatment. So there's, as I said, the psychotherapy, the support groups, the medication, hospitalization, just to name a few.
Wow. Wow. I'm learning so much just by hearing you talk and kind of walk through the menu of listings of so many ways to get support and get help. And so, because you're a pastor in Cambridge and you serve
Mhm.
in many different areas, I know you're doing some work in the area of helping in the area of the mental health of Cambridge and residents of Cambridge. So tell us that the work that you're doing, and I know that you were granted some real good resources to help us to do that. So can you talk about that?
So it was about, I'm trying to think, maybe 2 years ago now. At the end of, I heard about this grant. It's a Chana, it's a Community Health Network Area 17. That's the whole name of it. And they were giving a grant for mental health and racial equity. My vision has always been, how can the faith community needs to be talking about mental health a lot more. We need to be dealing with it, so that it will help our people. All right. Spirituality is good. Talking about religion, talking about relationship with God is wonderful. Let me just give you a backdrop on how all of this came up for me. I used to hear growing up, a lot of times I used to hear preachers say, all you need is Jesus. You don't need no counselor. All you need is Jesus. And I used to be honest with you, at that time, I used to cringe. I used to be like, what are they saying? Like, all you need is Jesus. You don't need to see nobody. You need to go see no counselor. You don't need no therapy. All you need is Jesus. All you need is to pray more. And at that time, I remember I was younger at the time, even in high school, I'd be like, I don't agree with that. I don't know about all that. I don't know about that. And then even as I got older, I was like, nah, I can't get with that. I'm sorry, I can't get with that. And so for me, I heard about this grant, the Chana 17. So I went for it under my church. We went through this grant. And so it's a three-pronged grant that I went for. And the three areas that I wanted to address was, one, addressing the areas with pastors, with clergy, because I really believe that clergy, especially senior pastors, we suffer sometimes from secondhand trauma. We have been at the bedsides of people who have passed away. We have counseled many of families through marital issues, divorces, even, been with families during their most hard times, and all of this stuff, while watching all of this trauma that is going on with other people. And how does it affect us as clergy? We've got our own stuff that we need to deal with, but that we don't necessarily deal with. So that was my first approach, because I knew that, especially in the Black community, if I can get the Black pastor on board with mental health, dealing with their own mental health as well, making it, normalizing it, making it where it's not a stigma, making it where they can also be talking about this in their churches would be wonderful. So what I did was, in this grant, say, okay, we want to set up where we're meeting with pastors, a small group of pastors over a period of maybe about a few months, where they come in, meet at the church, and I brought in an outside therapist. So the therapist taught for about 30 minutes, would teach a lesson for 30 minutes, and then we went into gender specific small groups. So it was like the support groups, it was like a therapy group. And I mean, it was absolutely powerful. And the issues that came up, I can't go into it because of confidentiality, but there were many, many issues, trauma, whether it would be from childhood. People talked about the trauma of pastoring. People talked about that. So it was great. And so that was one of the issues I want to address. And I still want to address it because I really believe, especially because of the what's going on with COVID, we're doing new things as pastors. I really believe even as pastors, we are more stressed than ever. And people think, oh, it's easy. You're preaching from home. To me, it's much more stressful doing a Zoom, preaching from Zoom and Facebook, because you've got to engage differently with people. So we're under much more stress. And so how do we take care of pastors? So that's one of the areas. The second area that I want to deal with, how can I educate and equip clergy, lay leaders in churches, even the community as a whole, as far as how can we give you education around mental health? The same way you're asking these questions, about, well, what is therapy? What is psychotherapy? What is medication and all of that, to be able to break it down. And I'll talk about this later, whenever, but mental health first aid. All right. Train people. How, if you're dealing with someone who is having an anxiety attack, how do you deal with someone, talk to someone, if you're meeting, you've got people in your families who are depressed.
Mm.
How, so that we know how to identify someone who's depressed, can't get out of bed. They've not been getting out of bed for the last 2 months. And you just think they're lazy, but they're not lazy. They're depressed. They're going through something. And so that we can erase a lot of that stigma. So giving education, that was the second thing. The third thing to be able to do was to host symposiums where we actually gather around topics. The first one we had, which was great, was October of 2019. We held our first mental health. We didn't call it mental health, we call it total health symposium. We had therapists there. We had a fitness instructor, because we wanted total health. We had someone from the bank industry. We wanted to speak to the total health. We had even a Black masseuse there giving massages, so we wanted to deal with people's health, their soul, and everything. And so that is key. So we want to be able to continue with these areas. So we got a grant to do this. I got money to do this so that we can educate, normalize mental health, so it is no longer a stigma in the Black community, communities of color, but especially in the communities of faith. I'll stop there, but that's
wonderful.
what we're really
That's
doing.
wonderful. That's wonderful. And so, do you find it um, difficult for people to, be what I call early, kind of like early adapters? They're just kind of like, okay, we're going to come in and we're just going to jump right in, and or do you still find there's a lot of fear still about when you're talking about mental health and their involvement in it?
I think it's both. I think now, especially, you hear much more about it than you ever did before. All right. Everything kind of is mental health. You got Suicide Awareness Month. You've got Domestic Violence Month. You got Mental Health Awareness Month. So people are hearing much more about it. I know even in my own church, I talk about it a whole lot, but yeah, I would say I talk about it a whole lot. Talk about mental health. I talk about trauma. Um, Talk about seeing a therapist. Even just recently in preaching a sermon, I heard this phrase: prayer is our weapon. Prayer is a weapon, but therapy is a strategy. And so I've been using that for the last few weeks. Prayer is a weapon, therapy is a strategy. Prayer is a weapon, therapy is a strategy. Okay, so normalizing it, not making it something where people have to fear. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, well, I don't know what they're going to do to me. I don't know what's going to happen to me, And if I go to see therapy, I said, it's just talking to someone. And if you don't have a connection with that person, Nothing stops you from finding someone else. The same way, if you don't have a connection with your doctor, you're like, you know what, this ain't working. You find someone else. You find another therapist. I'll get a lot of questions about, or I want to see a Christian therapist. And I'll say to people, why? Do you want to see a Christian doctor? Do you ask to see a Christian medical doctor? Do you ask to see a Christian lawyer? Do you ask to see a Christian banker? Why does it need to be a Christian therapist? Usually that's the fear, because we're afraid someone is not going to be able to understand my faith, understand where I'm coming from, and want to change me. So I tell people, look, go see the therapist. All right. Let me deal with your faith. Don't let them change your faith and what you believe. All right. The same way you go to that doctor, you trust that doctor when they say, okay, you need an MRI, you need a CAT scan, you need to take these medications. You're like, okay, all right. You just go ahead and do it. All right. So what is the difference between that and seeing a psychotherapist or seeing a therapist? And when they give you recommendations, you get kind of like, oh, I need a Christian therapist. No, it's because it's dealing with the mind. It's dealing with something we can't see. And so it makes it
Yeah.
scary for us. We get like, they're gonna try to, mess with my mind, and so I tell folks, don't worry about that. Go see the therapist. If there's not a connection, if you don't feel that you're open to talk with them, then find someone else. All right. But don't let them take away your faith in God. Don't let them, let me deal with your faith. Let them deal with your emotional, mental health. Sometimes they go together, but if not, don't let them deal with that piece. So that's how
Wow.
I.
That's good. That's really good. That's insightful. That's very insightful. Thank you very much for really explaining that and really helping, at least helping me, and I'm sure it helped a lot of others kind of think about, the person doesn't have to be necessarily a Christian to really help you. So that's a really good analogy, because I find it the same way, where when you're talking about something dealing with your mind, you definitely don't want to kind of what I call go out of the Christian circle to find somebody. But if you really need that help, yeah, you can get that help and have someone who is a believer deal with your faith. So I thought that was very insightful.
Yeah, because we see a
Well,
medical
hello,
doctor.
folks. Yeah, that's true. You see a medical doctor. That's a good analogy. Well, for those of you who just came in, we just want to thank you for coming in and being a part of this discussion. I'm here with Pastor Lorraine Thornhill, who's pastor of the Kingdom Empowerment Center, and we're talking about mental health in this COVID pandemic. And so, if you do have questions, if you do have some comments, please use the chat box, and we're going to have some time to answer your questions, and we'll be delighted to hear from you.
Yes,
So
please.
please take this time to put in the chat box if you're on the Zoom platform, especially, so we can hear you and hear what your concerns are and what would you like to have answered. So I want to talk about this now that we are now in late October.
Hmm.
The election is coming up really in a matter of days. And we are hearing on the news, and we're hearing from our news media that mental health is a pandemic. It's crisis. COVID cases are now rising. I'm
Hmm.
seeing so many people panic from the election issues to having loved ones who are, cannot be seen because they're sick. People are distant, and businesses are closing. The economy,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, just a lot of things that people are very concerned about, and they're saying that we don't have enough resources to help people. And so, what would you what would you say that we do, you know, with this whole idea of, what, there's probably not enough resources, so maybe I'm not going to get any help.
That's a good question. And this is where I really believe the church needs to be equipped in dealing with the whole person. Not saying that it's our number one specialty, but this is where pastors and ministers need to be able to talk, about um, mental health, talk about stress, talk about anxiety, preach sermons about anxiety, preach sermons about stress, depression, preach sermons about suicide, preach sermons about domestic violence, talk about how, you know, if me and you had a conversation and we were to talk about Elijah in the Bible, when Elijah was sitting under the juniper tree saying, Lord, I just want to die. I just want to die. Now, was he thinking of suicide? Was he just saying, Lord, just basically take my life, Lord? I don't want to be here no more. I'm done. What would you say? We don't talk about that. This man, if I were to be honest, was depressed. Okay, when you look at it, when you study Elijah and look at, he wasn't eating. Okay, the Lord had to feed him. All right, he wanted to stay in the cave. All right, lock himself in, which is what we are in right now, in a cave. We're in a pandemic. We're quarantined. We're isolated. And here it is. He's locked in a cave, and the Lord even comes out like, "Who told you to go into a cave?" All right, and so who puts us in this position of being, whether it be outside circumstances, the environment, what locks us up? What is locking us up? All right. That's the questions we need to ask people and have people be thinking about, what is locking you up? What are you fearful of? What are you afraid of? Really getting to the root of their emotions and what's happening for people. People are fearful. Some people have lost their job. Some people don't know if their job is going to be there next year or even next month. All right. That brings on a level of anxiety. It brings on a level of stress. It's wonderful to pray about it. Yes, we can pray about it. Yes, don't get me wrong. We can pray about it. And that's where also, though, just talking to people about how do you deal emotionally about it? How do we have a balance in our life between prayer and our emotional stability? All right. Because also we're in a generation that a lot of people have not gone through anything. How do
Yes.
you deal when life gets hard? How do you deal when life smacks you in the face with unexpected things that happen, an unexpected death? Someone even dies during this pandemic, and you don't have the proper tools or the proper ways to even grieve. You can't even go to the hospitals and see people. All right, can't hardly be at their bedsides anymore. That affects how we grieve. All right. And all of that is where, we as the church, we need to talk about a lot of these issues. We need to talk about death and dying, not just because of a pandemic. We needed to be talking about death and dying, not just preparing people as far as preparing them like, okay, make sure you get your estate in order, make sure you have your will in order, but also talking around a loss. Okay, because it's a loss. When you lose someone, what does that mean? What has it done to you? I tell folks when doing grief counseling, I said the first year is hard because you go through all the first birthday without that person being there, the first and holidays without that person. That can be, you remember all the dates, remember certain things, and it can be very hard. So preparing people, giving people some education around it. So what we're doing, normalizing it. Okay, and helping folks realize, okay, yeah, it might be hard for you that first birthday, and you're wondering why am I so sad, and you don't even think about it. The birthday comes around and you're sad, you're depressed, and whatever, but nobody ever told you the birthday, the Christmas, the holidays, especially if your family and holidays are really big. Those things it can be very hard. And we go into shells, we isolate, we go into a cave. And it's how we deal with ourselves emotionally while we're in the cave. And Elijah had a hard time dealing in the cave.
Yes.
That's what's happening with many of us. We're in a cave right now. And many folks are not doing well in the cave emotionally.
No.
All
No.
right. And so the resources are, how can we as a church support groups? Um, even as pastors, talking about this, so that people don't feel that they're out here alone, that they are the only ones going through.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really important. All that you said, you know, that is really, really important. It's something that even makes me think about even talking about that more with my congregation and trying to help them and help anyone with their holistic health concerns and really developing as a disciple.
Yeah.
We have a question from the chat, and
Okay.
I'm kind of balancing out the YouTube as well. And Tony's actually helping us out here.
Okay.
Question came, how can you approach the topic of mental health with someone who may not be open to hearing it?
Ooh, ooh, ooh. That is good. And usually, okay, what I would probably suggest is finding out their background, like what's going on for them that they're not open to it. Some people most likely are either scared, either from something they saw, something they read, or it's just the fact, I don't, ain't nobody going to talk to me about my mind. What they going to do with me about my mind? Can't give me no difference there. I'm good in my mind. And so we just get fearful of, as I said,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like, going to see the medical doctor. So it's really finding out what that person's fear is. Even if you can bring resources to the person, gather some resources, do your own research, all right, and give that person some resources. And sometimes that's where even being able sometimes to talk to a pastor before you can actually can be a, how do I want to say this, an in-between person before actually going into quote unquote therapy.
Yes.
So sometimes, like, I've had people come in to see me, and it's like, number one, if I hear them talking about, physically, emotionally, they're doing, number one, I'll say, okay, when's the last time you had a physical? Because some things are physical. Making sure that they go and get a physical. Then also bringing up, what, it sounds like you need to talk to someone. I said, and you don't have to be scared of it. It's just sitting down like you're talking to me. All right. And helping that person, you getting like a third ear, someone else who's objective, doesn't really know you, doesn't know your family. So you don't have to worry about, oh, are they going to tell my family? I can't be honest. And sometimes, we have those old fables. Now that I think of it, where, you know, we can't tell our business outside of our home. So you can't talk about this outside of the home. It's got to stay within the home. That also can be an issue why people don't want to talk about this. So my thing I would recommend, finding out what's going on for this person. What is the root of, kind of just asking. So what you scared of? What's the
Mm.
fear? Talk to me
Yeah.
about what the fear is around mental health. Gathering some resources for that person, and if the person is, going to our churches, I would recommend, if possible, calling up Bishop Larry. Bishop Larry, I've got to, can you talk to my cousin here, or or suggesting to the person, would you be willing to talk to Bishop? I think it might just be helpful just to have a conversation. Would you be willing to talk to Pastor Lorraine? Just to have a conversation, another person who's objective, who's not going to give you, and say, oh yeah, I know this, and no, give you an
Mm.
objective viewpoint. All right. And then when things get beyond our lane, we refer them to somebody else and say, you know what? This is what therapy is about. The same way you've been talking to me, I want to refer you to someone else who can take it deeper. Okay. It's beyond my expertise right now. And I want you to get the best health. I was just saying way, if I was seeing a medical doctor and, they refer you, my doctor refers me out to, I have to have problems with my ears. My doctor doesn't deal with it. I'm gonna refer you to someone else because that's beyond my expertise. I can,
Mm.
look into your ears. I can see something is going on, but I'm referring you because I want you to get the best care. I
So
want your whole being to get the best care. And so that's what I would just tell this person, find out if you can what the root is. And also then, see if you can get some resources and just kind of leave it around for them, talk with them, well, you know, because some people are just scared. and or they've been told, don't talk to nobody about our business, don't tell nobody what's going on in this family, don't you tell nobody. That's how we've been raised. Come on, let's admit it. If I were to ask people, how many of you were raised like that and were told, don't tell no business outside of this home, don't you talk about your stuff outside this home? Many of us would say that. That's also what's in our Black community, especially communities of faith. We've got that cultural stigma, all
Yes.
right, that can't talk to nobody, can't tell nobody, because they're either going to label me, they're going to, and then sometimes people are just scared of finding out that something is going on, and they don't want to touch it. It's the same way physically. Some people are afraid to go see a doctor.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And all the things that happen, or you hear the horror stories um, of people that really may have had some bad experience, and
Mm-hmm.
you're not
Mm-hmm.
open to hear the people that had good experiences,
Correct.
because some of those stories aren't told. And yeah, they can be pretty frightening if all you heard is the negative and not the positive. So
Right. And
thank you.
that's,
That was really good.
yeah. And I think
That
that's
was really
where
that was,
transparency is needed in the church,
yes,
to talk about
yes,
therapy, to talk about mental health. We need transparency so that folks can say, you know what, I'm going through a dark place. We had one of our college age students was sharing, talking about what college life was like, and just shared about, yeah, going through a dark place at the college and went and got some help. I was there like, yes, yes, yes. I was so proud. And I don't think it was a Christian therapist they saw, Christians, counselor they saw at the school, but they were in a dark place emotionally. So they knew I can reach out for help. We've been talking about it, church. Reach out, reach out, reach out for help. And that's because we're not hearing it enough in our community, that it's okay to do.
yes, yes, yes. That's really comforting to hear that. Um, I have a question here in the chat box on the Zoom here. Is there a time frame for meeting a therapist, or is this relationship for a lifetime?
Oh, that depends on the issue, right? But usually, I mean, it depends on what you're going in for. Sometimes you can see someone, I would say you can see someone for a month to 3 months. And then you want to do your own evaluation. Where am I at? Am I improving? Am I learning things? Am I getting equipped? Am I getting empowered? Or am I getting worse? So if I'm getting worse, like, okay, so do I need more therapy? Then even the therapist might talk about it with you and say, okay, well, this has been going on, you know, what are our goals? What are we working towards? And say, okay, let's keep going. Let's do another 3 months and see where we're at. Most therapists, psychologists, have a treatment plan that, even if we'll discuss with the client that we're seeing, okay, this is what we're going to prescribe, saying, okay, come in here for 3 months, let's work on some of these issues, let's work on a couple of these, let's see where we're at together after 3 months. If you want to continue with this, if you don't, it depends also, um, if you have the money, the insurance, the coverage, that can be a hindrance, to how long you need to be in therapy. Sometimes you just finding it so good. See, I'm trying to make this so good for people. You just find it so good that you just want to keep going because you're learning, you're growing by this. It's just helping you. So it doesn't have to be a lifelong thing that you're in therapy like for the rest of your life. Some people are, because they're gaining from it, and go
Mm.
every month, hey, yeah, I'm in therapy every month. Yeah, yeah, I'm gaining something. I'm learning something from this. This is helping me. I'm growing. Um, I'm growing emotionally. No, I'm gonna do this for a year. I'm gonna do this for, yeah, I'm gonna keep going. And some people do. Some people now will say, yep, 3 months was enough and move on and do something else. But you also know you can go back. So
Yes.
it really depends on your experience, in therapy with the therapist. As I said, if you're not having a good connection, find someone else. So don't be like, oh man, I had a hard time. That therapist was, I didn't get nothing. Find somebody else. It's just, as I say, same way with the doctor. You find someone else. Find another
That's good.
therapist. Give it another try. Some people out there have tried it and it maybe it didn't work out for you so well. I'm telling you, get back up on it. Find someone else. All right. So I can't really say how long someone needs to be in therapy. It depends on the issue, depends on what's going on for them. Some people, especially if they're on medication, um, need to be seen by the psychiatrist, or someone is checking in on them. You need to be checked in on that with your medications, because some of these medications you just can't stop taking them. All right. Because they'll have side effects or whatever. You've got to gradually wean yourself. So this is what I would say. It depends on the issue that you're facing, but it's okay. I think people get scared when they hear, I don't want to be in therapy for the rest of my life. What's wrong with it? You see the doctor for the rest of your life. If it's helping you, do it.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Thank you. Another question. The questions are coming
Yes.
in.
Good. Good. I'm glad.
Um, there's so many folks that are out of jobs. Are there cost-effective ways to find and receive mental health care?
Oh, Jesus. Jesus. um, it's what trying to find someone who then who does a sliding scale fee could be one way. Meaning by that, there's some therapists who will adjust their fee. All right, because someone either doesn't have the insurance or someone is paying out of the pocket, and so they'll adjust their fee so that way it might not be so exorbitant. Some people, I say, okay, what can you afford? Can you afford $50? Can you, if you can't afford my $100 rate, my $200 rate, what can you afford? All right, so that's what we call like a sliding scale fee. They'll adjust the fee so that a person can get into therapy. So check out for that. See, ask that. See if there's a sliding scale fee. See if you have insurance. I tell some people also check with your, um, they call it on jobs EAP. On your job, sometimes they have those where you can see a therapist. I know some people get scared, like, I don't want my job knowing. It should be confidential. And if your job ever finds out that you are in therapy, then you've got a claim, because that should be confidential. That should not be going in part of your record or anything. You can even ask the EAP, like, does this go in my record? They can refer you to someone, et cetera, et cetera. That should not be a part of your record. That should not be um, anything. So you shouldn't have to worry about, your job finding out about that.
That's good. That's good to know. Thank you. Um, when it comes to dealing with mental health and concerns, particularly for Christians, and
Mm-hmm.
we're churchgoers, and particularly if you're in the Pentecostal
Oh,
church
oh,
denomination, and you believe in the power of God, you believe in the healing of God, you
oh,
believe in the
oh.
restoration of His Word,
Yes,
but yet
yes.
you have um, how do we deal with the issues of mental health that's either something is triggering it from our emotional state to things in our history or the demonic. And we do have some things when it comes to the demonic
You went there.
that
You went there.
exacerbates the. Yes, I'm going to go there because when the Bible does tell us that there was the man from the tombs. It talks about the man from the tombs, and he came out. And
Good.
and
Yeah.
God and the Lord delivered him, and he was fit, and the Bible says he was clothed in his right mind. So how do we work with this tension of, is this chemical? Is it spiritual? Is it both? What do you
Oh,
think?
Bishop Larry, you opening up a can of worms now. um, Sometimes, and especially from our tradition, sometimes some things are demonic, spiritual. Okay, if you really study the man from the tombs, it'll even say he was cutting himself. All right. Um, and we've got cutters, people who try to, you know, um, not even necessarily wanting to kill themselves, but they just cut themselves. They're the cutters.
Hmm.
All right. And so here it is. Think about it. He's living amongst the tombs. He's living with dead folks. All right. Not being able to keep his clothes on, cutting himself. All right. And so when he meets Jesus, all right, Jesus recognized, okay, there's a spirit that is also controlling this man. So he cast out the demon spirit in the man. I also believe, get myself in trouble. I also do believe that there are times when um, we need to speak to things that have a hold of us, a stronghold over the mind, and speak to the spirit. So that there are times when you might need a demon cast out while also having therapy. And because, uh, and especially if it's sometimes when you need to examine, like, things aren't changing. I'm just totally stuck in my mind. Like, Lord, why can't I break free? And there are times when we need to speak to the spirit. Okay. I remember hearing years ago, and this always stuck with me. And I was like, Lord, is this true? Um, from a man, and you met him, we've had him preach for the district, who said, you cannot counsel a demon. And I was like,
Hmm.
whoa, whoa, baby, whoa. And I'm thinking, he got some, he might be right there. He might be right there. Because, the demon is combative, um, and does not want you set free, does not want the individual free. Okay. Um, and so it's taking the individual, holding the individual hostage. And so there are times when, even to do, if you go through some really good deliverance, um, if you read this, there's this book, oh, some of my folks would know what I'm not. I'm about to say Pigs in the Blanket. Is it Pigs in the Blanket? Pigs in the Parlor, I think it is.
Pigs in the parlor. They have
Pigs in
pigs
the
in the parlor.
Parlor. And it
Hmm.
really talks about um, this mental health and being demonized. And so what they say is they do a kind of, just like if you were going to see a therapist, they do an assessment. So you have, sometimes you need to do an assessment. How long has this been going on for you? Um, if you're seeing someone who is as a pastor, I do an assessment. How long has this been going on for you? How long is this issue? All right, et cetera, et cetera. And having the person as well. All right, especially if they're a Christian, okay, you need to have some time where you're praying about this. I know I'm praying in my private time, like, okay, Lord, let me pray for this person as well. But they need to be praying as well. Okay, so it's going through some therapy. But when I'm starting to see that, you know, they're not changing, something is not happening, and then my spirit starts like, no, okay, something ain't right here. Something is not normal. And I hate to use that word. I really do. Um, but that's what was going on with that man from the Gadarenes. Okay, he was slashing himself, living in a dark place, living with dead folks, and everything, the way he was going on. And Jesus recognized there is a spirit that is holding you hostage. Once that spirit was released from, once he was, Jesus cast out the spirit, his mind came back together. You don't see that happening a lot of days now, where people are casting out and saying we speak to the spirit. Okay. And so I so I would say, to reckon that, to deal with that, that's where a lot of discernment. All right, it takes discernment. And so that's where I'm really careful, because I don't want people saying, not saying you don't need therapy. Oh, just come pray for me. Sometimes you need both.
Yes.
You need the prayer, you need deliverance, and you need to see a therapist. So why? So that that spirit does not come back. You need to get to the root of it. Why did it get there in the first place? What doors were opened for you? That how did that get there? Okay, whether it's a say addiction. Well, how did that addiction come there? Okay, it just didn't get there. It just didn't be, oh, okay, I got addiction today. No, 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 no. What door was open?
Mm.
So it's so seeing a therapist, and that's where in some ways you might need a Christian therapist, but getting to a therapist to find out, okay, where did this come from? What is the root of this? Okay, so that just like in the Bible says, when you cast out, when you eradicate the strong man from your house, he's going to go get demons 7 times stronger to come back to your house. And if he finds it swept clean, but he's trying to get back in. So then you've got to make sure, how do I keep my mind clean? How do I keep my body, my emotions? How do I keep them regulated? All right. It's the same way. I hate to get a little graphic, but my folks know me like this. It's the same way you need to have and it's healthy. To get rid of the toxins in your body, you must have a bowel movement. And to keep healthy. Otherwise, that builds up and the toxins build up in your body. Same way emotionally, mentally. If you don't, if you get rid of it, but how do you keep yourself regular emotionally? How do I keep myself regular so that the toxins don't build back in and I get filled with toxicity again?
That's good. That's good. I got some questions coming in, and so we only got a few more minutes, so we're gonna fire away. All right. Um, Question that we want to kind of give you a short answer, and give a short answer if you could on this one.
Okay, yes.
Can mental
Okay.
health issues be generational? Can mental health issues be generational?
Yes, definitely. That's where also when you go see your just saying therapist, the broad term therapist, your social worker, your psychologist, psychiatrist, they will do an assessment the same way. If they're not doing an assessment, something is wrong. Same way you go to see your doctor will ask you if say if it's I don't know, asthma. Anyone else in your family have asthma? Anyone else in your family have diabetes? The same way, mental health folks will ask you, does anyone in your family have, some mental health issues? Sometimes we don't really know because it's never been talked about. But that's why, grandma so-and-so, auntie so-and-so, uncle so-and-so was acting like the way they was acting because there were some mental health issues. They were depressed, but we didn't know that. So yes, they can definitely be generational.
That's good. That's good. Next question. What are some of the characteristics of a good therapist?
If you're able to, for each one is different, for each person is different, but if you're able to relate to them, okay, where you find that you're able to talk. So if you find that you're going to see a therapist and you feel sometimes you got to check and see if it's your own paranoia or whatever, but if you feel that they're looking at you strange or they're labeling you or whatever, no. Okay, and if you're not able to relate to them, if you don't feel comfortable talking, like you're having a hard time, it could be your own fear as well because it's new for you. So that's why I would say give it a couple of times with that person, 3 times. But if you still don't feel it and you're not feeling it, find someone else.
That's good. Thank you. Another question that comes in: how does a person know when they don't need therapy any longer, but the therapist keeps telling them that they do? Should they keep going just because the therapist says they need it more, or should they just
So I would ask that person, why is your therapist saying you still need therapy? And that person needs to ask the therapist, why do I still need therapy? Okay, I feel good, I'm doing better. All right, why do I still need therapy? Or do I still need to come as often as I'm coming?
Right.
Maybe I was coming, there were some people I would just see, every other week. Then I moved them to just once a month. I didn't need to see them every week or every other week. All right. I could then transition out of that and say, no, we can go to or we can go from every week to every other week to once a month. I don't need to see you. So why does this person or why does this therapist feel that you need to still be coming to therapy? So you have every right to ask that. Okay. What are they seeing? Okay. What are they picking up on? All right. If they're not telling you and says, oh, I just think you just need to come, then I'd be like, well, no, something ain't right here. You're just telling me I need to come. Just that's when, like, are you just wanting my money? Like, why are you saying I need to come here? They ought to be able to give you some reason why they think that you should still be in therapy. Okay, if you feel that you're ready to stop, you don't, what's the reason?
Mm, it's good. It's good. So when it comes to church, just like we have, you have accountants, you have the bookkeeper, the clerk, the usher, the other ministries, the prayer ministers, etc. Should you have a therapist within the construct of your church, or somewhere along the line an access to one, just like you have some of those other ministries?
If you can, yes. In my next life, that's what I'm going to do. But yeah,
Next slide.
I yeah, I think I think especially in the times of our country, the state of our country. Oh, definitely, most definitely. If you can have a therapist, I know there are some churches that do have counseling ministries. Right there, I think it's great if you can do it, and folks are set up like that. The church is able to be set up to do that. Go
Mm,
ahead and do it.
wow,
Go ahead.
mm, that's really good. And I have another question for you.
Go ahead.
You are a coach and you are a therapist.
What's the difference?
What's the difference between the two? And when do you need what?
A life coach, more so, um, is a relationship with a client where you are, a mutual relationship where you're empowering that person, helping that person, to empower them to fulfill the untapped potential within them, unrealized dreams and goals. So it's more of a mutual relationship. Okay, so it's not necessarily, in some ways, you saw some life coaches is not necessarily an expert. All right. They're sitting with you, asking you powerful questions, helping you kind of where you plan the sessions. You seen a life coach, you kind of, okay, what's the agenda? All right. What's your goals? All right. You're setting the agenda. Whereas for a therapist, they're more so dealing with your emotion, more so dealing with, your past pain, um, and helping you and fixing it where they're seen as the expert. The life coach, in some ways, is not the expert. They're helping you, all right, to see within yourself, okay, of how you can get to your goals, get to your dreams, get unstuck from where you're at to move to where you need to be. All right. So life coaching more so deals with the future, the present and the future. Psychotherapy, seeing a therapist, more so will deal with present and the past. Okay, so if you've seen a life coach and they're always talking about your past, you're not in coaching. So coaching is more future oriented than, therapy. Therapy is, um, primarily the present and the past.
That's good.
What
That's
from your
good explanation.
past, yeah, what from your past caused what's going on now.
Mm,
Coaching is, okay, how can you move from here to there?
mhm.
So getting you into the future. And I know therapy does want to move you future, but it also goes to the past to do that. Coaching usually will not go to the past unless it is relevant to get you unstuck, but it won't stay there.
That's good explanation. That's really good. That's quite very clear. So we're almost concluded. We got about two minutes. We're having a good discussion here. You know, one of the things I always would like to have our guests do is to just talk about some resources that people may need to read. Maybe it's a website, maybe it's a few things that we can go to, improve our mental health and find out where we can go to get therapists and if there's any resources that you might have.
I really have to put a lot. I have like pages of resources that I have that I need to get on a website. We'll be coming out with because of the grant that we have, because of what I'm doing in what we're doing in our own church. We'll be coming out with a website. Hopefully end of this year that will have a lot of resources where people can go to get this. But there's NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They have a 24-hour helpline. They have a website that you can go to. There is the Black Emotional and Mental Health Collective. All right, people can check that out. It's the Black Emotional Mental Health Collective. Let me just say this: I'm not endorsing any of these things I'm telling you about. I also, like to throw in that caveat: I'm not endorsing it. I'm not responsible if you connect with any of these services and something don't turn up. Well, Pastor Rain, no, I'm just giving you recommendations for some of these services that you can check out. There's the Black Mental Health Alliance. You can go online, Google a lot of these things. There's a suicide hotline. We've got the Boston area rape crisis center right there in Cambridge that we can, people can gather resources from. So there's many different places. As I said, sometimes even your own medical doctor can give you some resources. Um, I do have a list of therapists um, out there. I'm not saying I recommend anyone or whatever. This is a list I had that was given to me. So I'm not vetting anyone or anything like that. Um, so those are some things that I can recommend. Like right now, as I said, I have a whole list of things that I want to give. And so those are some of the things that I just wanted to mention to people that you can check out, go online. There's also, if it's still the African American Therapist.com. Okay, I mentioned NAMI to you. There's Ashmont Counseling Associates, is right down, not far there in Boston. Ashmont Counseling Associates, if you're looking for a counselor.
Mm.
So that's a place also to go check out. There's the Riverside Community Care. There's De Novo. These are all places that came out of Cambridge too. So those are places you can check out as well. I'm hoping to also launch in the new year. I just got certified this year to be a mental health first aid instructor. So I know we're over time. Just give me 1 minute on this. To be a certified mental health first aid instructor, the same way you would go for training to learn how to give someone CPR. You can learn how to give mental health first aid. So I'll be offering some courses in that starting in the new year, so people can get trained to be a mental health first aid person.
Great. That's great. We're gonna need everybody, all hands on deck. I think
Yes,
that as churches would, and I know our church, we're connected with you, and we really have a passion for whole life discipleship, and that's something that we need is to really help people, to help other people, and
yes,
also be a
yes,
blessing in many different ways. And so helping with that first aid and just kind of really learning all the practices of that, because we're going to need a lot of people to help in this wave of the mental health crisis that we're in. And
yes,
so
yes.
it was great having you on here. It's really great having you on here. It's amazing. I know we just kind of skimmed the surface, but
We
we have to
did.
have you on again, and we're going to go a little deeper, and we're going to kind of really talk about some things that are happening, and we want to know the progress of what's coming up. And I know we're tied together, and we're just so happy that you're on here. So I just want to just thank all our guests and thank all of you for tuning into BLAW Live on Tuesday evenings, and you're really keeping us informed of how you enjoy the program. And we're all committed to really sharing this as long as people are interested. So I just like to put it out there for those of you who are watching. If there is something that you would like us to talk about, you would like us to talk about and share, certainly we're open for your suggestions. And so you can go to Abundant Life Church and you can send me an email. I get my own email, so I read them, and you can just send me an email at blaw@alccamb.org, and you can send me an email and let me know, hey, I'd like to talk about this subject, or I have some interest in that subject. I'm sure there's others that we're connected to that can really help us to really understand what we need to know. And so if you also know something that you want to see or something that you want to hear, you can put it in the chat. So we're also taking your questions and your feedback from the chat as well. So Pastor Lorraine,
Thank you.
may the Lord bless you. I mean, you're a real blessing tonight. So we're definitely going to have to talk again and have you on here to
I hope
really
so. I hope
give us
so.
some more. Give us some more. Give us some more. Give us some more. So to all of you, I just want to bless you as you go, and take care of yourself. This is a very, very important season. If you haven't voted, please do. If you haven't gone out there and let your voice be heard at the polls, please do. We need to let you know that every vote counts
Counts.
and
Yes.
your voice
Yes.
needs to be heard. So if you haven't gone, please do that. And thank you so much for joining us. And we're just going to just say a blessing on you, and we're going to say goodbye. So Lord, we thank you, we praise you, we magnify you for this time. Thank you, Lord, for our Pastor Lorraine. Bless her as she does this work continually. And thank you, Lord, for giving us this powerful session, Lord, on how we can deal with our own personal mental health as well as help others. So, Lord, we commend your people to God. We commend your people to you. We say, Lord, would you bless them? Would you allow your face to
Mm.
shine upon them? May the favor of the Lord be upon them and give them
Yes,
your
God.
peace, your shalom, Father, even as we walk through this very violent and turbulent time.
Yes,
May they
God.
sense your surrounding presence, Lord. Bless the work of their hands. Give them a good night's rest, Lord. Empower them that they may serve you better. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Thank
God
you for the
bless you all.
invitation.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you back on BLAW Live Tuesday nights at 7.